So when I was younger, I was abducted and sexually abused. And my abuser told me not to tell anyone. And when the police found us and then called my family, my mother came to pick me up and she told me never to speak about what happened. It's driven me mad off and on throughout my life. But when I think about what sent me into places of madness, I don't think it's always so much the abuse and violence. I think it's the fact that I was made to be quiet and that I was taught to be silent about it. And it's a kind of central question for me at the heart of this exhibition. What does it mean when we silence the impacts of sexual violence and child abuse in the same ways that we silence survivors trying to speak? I didn't tell the police when I was interviewed that I was abused, that I was raped. I didn't think of it as anything but this is what happens in the world. And I actually kept quiet about that experience for 27 years of my life. The message that comes with silencing is shame. Shame and silence for me were the gravest of all of the terrible things that have been done to me in my life. And what I came to see really clearly is that my distress is about things that have happened to me in the world, not about me being broken. I think self-injury is a really skillful, creative act. It's often not seen that way, but it can meet so many of our survival needs. It also comes with huge costs and nightmares and horrible things that can happen as well. I'm not sitting here saying self-injury is great, but sometimes it's great because it's the best thing that we have, and if that helps us survive, then that is great. And I think sometimes the function of self-injury is to give voice to experiences of abuse and injustice that no one else has heard. And if people won't hear our words, and sometimes we mightn't be able to find the words, they can see our bodies, they can see our cuts, they can see our skin. It's a way to tell our story. And it's actually been something that's helpful. It's often something that helps me to stay alive. But I notice how incredibly misunderstood it still is, how much judgement there is, how much pressure there is to hide my scars, to not speak about it. This project, the seeds of it artistically would be about 22 years ago when I was being admitted to psychiatric units over and over again. And one of the things that I would do when I was really distressed late at night when I couldn't sleep was to draw on my pillowcases. So I'd take pens with me to bed and I'd lay there and just draw on them over and over and over, trying to make sense of things, using my creativity in the dead of night and what pillows were all about in that. Pillows were a place for me to go to, and also something I could hold when there was no one else to hold or to hold me in those awful times. I've spent about the last 9 years of my life doing systemic advocacy work as a survivor. So I've worked all around the mental health system, trying to make change and largely not succeeding. I've made a decision to step away from that advocacy work. I was starting to feel complicit in the system, in working for it and with it and not seeing it shift. And so I wanted to move into being with survivors instead of being with the system. I want to be a part of working with my community of survivors to create alternatives to harmful mental health systems. Why is it that our experiences of self-injury are such a huge taboo and actually further perpetuate the injustices that have gone on in our lives? I find it myself very, very strange that as a society we've decided that experiences of distress are an illness and that the expertise for that belongs in the health system, in a system where people are trained to be clinically objective rather than compassionate and connected. It's fair to say that even though my big hope for this show is about activism, it's about being with other survivors, doing something in the world that's going to make a difference, it is also incredibly personal, reflecting on my own uses of self-injury. And there's something bigger personal as well, which is about that I'm changing my life. You know, I've stepped away from all of my ongoing income. And from a type of work I've been doing for a long time now, to take a risk and try something different. This feels really nourishing for my spirit. It is not terribly nourishing for my bank account. What if I can create an art project that is a place that survivors want to come in and connect with me around, and create art objects that are related to self-injury, that give us a chance to talk about it in ways that we can't normally, and maybe in that place of being able to speak, we can find something different. And the cushions, of course, came from that very old pillow, but also from thinking, what might it be like if we can externalise this a little bit, if we have objects that are a little bit like bodies, that we can hold, that we can injure, that we can heal, and we can look at them and do that with each other. And so I was curious to see what might happen.
Now I'm going to introduce the fabulous Indigo Daya.
Thanks, Jill. Hi, everyone. I put my bloody back out. Do we have any physios here today? I hope, like the Hold Me cushion, that we can all hold ourselves and our truths, that we can hold each other, that we can hold space for challenging ideas. We can hold space for our pain as well, as Marianne was saying.
I was like, no one's even going to come. If they do come, they're going to run out screaming, or they're going to tell you it's a pile of crap. No one's going to engage with the cushions. It's not even real art. It's ridiculous. What are you thinking? You're far too fat and old and uncool to be an artist anyway. What's that about? You're never going to get everything finished on time. That one was true. So I had so many fears going into it, and the reality was nothing like that at all. It was, you know, I made what I made, and it was unfinished and imperfect. But that's okay, because we're talking about big, hard things that are also unfinished and imperfect. So people could cut the cushions, and people could also tend to them or help heal them. So people could stitch them or bandage them or hold them and love them. The first time for some people that they've spoken to another person about self-injury. And I know from that experience of so often feeling adrift and disconnected, what it means to have another person hear that and to not be alone in it. And I loved that there was so much rich creativity. It was loud sometimes and quite inconvenient at times as well. You know, it was messy. It was a messy forum, and that felt really right as well, because madness and distress and trauma are incredibly messy. So it felt very human, which I loved. I feel like I'm still processing it, but it was bloody wonderful. As someone who's taking steps into a new place, into a new adventure, it was a wonderful place for me to land, because I didn't just feel incredibly supported, I was. For me, being silenced, it meant I went mad. It meant that I never got to access justice for any of those three experiences of rape. What it also means to me is that silence served those perpetrators, doesn't serve victims and survivors. It serves perpetrators, it serves the patriarchy, it serves the systems that benefit from violence and abuse. The experiences that led to my distress are all social justice issues. This is about creating alternative responses to what we often call mental health, but I don't think of as mental health. I think of as trauma and pain and responses to injustice. How can we respond to those really differently in the world? And I want to be a part of many other amazing people who've done that work of growing real alternatives in the community and seeing what happens.